thousands off MSRP.
It's a crime to pay more than a dime.
One dime down.
At Route 6 Automall Kia.
1920.
Route6Automall.com. Route6Automall.com.
1665 per thousand borrowed plus tax tag title through various lenders. Example, Cap 1, qualified buyers.
Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's is your ammo headquarters, and we will not be undersold. We've got the area's largest selection at the very best everyday prices, and you'll save even more when you buy in bulk. Come in now and load up on the best deals on handgun, rifle, rimfire, and shot shell ammo. When you think ammo, think Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Shop in one of our hundreds of stores across the country or online at basspro.com and cabela's.com. Your adventure starts here.
Hi, this is Ron St. Pierre. Waking up with me on News Radio 920 and 104.7 FM just got a whole lot easier. If you've got a Google Assistant or Google Home device, just say, hey Google, play News Radio 920 on iHeartRadio. It's that easy.
The Rush Limbaugh Show is sponsored locally by Insperity, HR that makes a difference, with a local office now in Providence.
News Radio 920 and 104.7 FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Stein.
Yes, America's Anchorman is away, and this is Mark Stein, your foreign virus coursing through the bloodstream of the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. We're here at Ice Station EIB, and I drove over the border earlier this morning, loaded up with premium Canadian 2-ply toilet paper. I'll be selling that off the back of the truck after the show. But don't try anything, because I got me one of these fancy new assault weapons that Joe Biden is all worried about. The AR-14. It's way better than the AR-13, so don't try anything. Yeah, Rush is out for a couple of days. We have your pals and mine, Ken Matthews, Todd Herman coming in later this week, and then Rush will close things out. And Todd Herman, I think this is at his Twitter feed. He posted a lovely thing this morning of a big moose wandering through his backyard, and he said that this is God's way of telling him that the Lord will provide even in desperate times. So Todd, even as we speak, is dressing that moose and settling in for a full bowl of moose stew a little later. Ken and Todd in later in the week, and Rush. It's a busy news week. It is a Monday like no other in the United States for quite some time. I noticed I live in a lightly populated rural area, but I still noticed that driving into the studio there was nothing on the road, because normally I find myself behind some Vermonter going at 28 miles an hour and have to pick the tiny little spot in the unbroken double yellow lines to pass the guy. And the Vermonter driving 28 miles an hour is not on the road today. Busy news week. Florida, let's get the politics out of the way first, because the politics in some ways is the least important of this thing. Florida is still planning at this hour to go ahead with its primary, which is scheduled for tomorrow. And as you know, Florida is a state with many old people in it. But the Florida authorities have said that they can handle it, and it is safe to go out and vote. This is a state that is by far totally incompetent at holding an election in the best of times, but it still purports to be able to hold an election in the midst of this coronavirus thing, with old people standing in line for hours and hours. Now, the interesting thing about this is whether the poll workers, who do not seem to me to be, if you're a Florida poll worker, feel free to stop dimpling your chat and give me a call, 1-800-282-2882, but they do not seem to be necessarily the most scrupulous human capital on the planet. The interesting question will be how many of them actually show up for work tomorrow when polls open, and in that case, how many more hours people are going to have to wait to stand in line. And just going on the anecdotal evidence of the light traffic around my own part of the world, whether those Florida elderly voters will bother going out to vote. Now that's interesting, because if the older people don't go out to vote, that leaves an electorate that skews artificially young, which works in Bernie's favor. Early voting, Bernie was riding high, so early voting, Bernie's doing really well. If it is a younger skewing electorate, because old people, the Biden voters, basically everybody under 50 in the Democrat electorate is going for Bernie. And the older you get, the more likely you are to vote for Joe Biden. So if octogenarians and nonagenarians decline to go out and vote for Joe, that makes it more likely Bernie could pull off a surprise, which makes it more likely that the fellas controlling the Democrat Party will figure that out and change their mind about holding the primary tomorrow in Florida. Okay, that's the boring politics. I'll entertain calls. If you really want to talk about that Statler and Waldorf Democrat debate with two codgers coughing and sneezing over each other from 6 feet apart and arguing about who supported which Senate bill in 1997, if you really want to talk about that thing last night, we can do it. Otherwise, there's a lot of other things going on in the world. This is my favorite headline of the last 24 hours. From the Times of London, ISIS issues coronavirus travel advice. Terrorists should avoid Europe. ISIS is advising its members to steer clear of Europe and steer clear, in fact, of contact with the infidel in case they become infected. And speaking as an infidel, I'd say that directive works for me too. But it's getting serious when you know that ISIS are telling their members to, if you get the urge, I'm telling you, if you get the urge, you should not self-detonate. You need to self-quarantine, not self-detonate, self-isolate. If you get the urge to blow people up, you must go and blow people up in Africa, because there's much less chance of being all your body parts in Europe. If you blow people up, they will be infected with the coronavirus. And then Allah will be furious, because when you get to paradise, you will infect all the virgins, and there goes the neighborhood, and paradise will be infected with the infidel disease. And they've told people, they've told their members to cover their mouths when yawning and sneezing. And that's particularly important if you're a suicide bomber, because if you don't cover your mouth when you sneeze, you risk setting off the Semtex belt a couple of minutes early. So that could be a real disaster. The last thing you want, is you're getting ready. This actually happened to me in Copenhagen a few years ago. When I was with the fellows from the Inland Province and Mohammed cartoons, and there was a one-legged Chechen. Who doesn't love a one-legged Chechen? A comedy gold. And he was heading off to come and blow us all up. And unfortunately, he prematurely assassinated in his hotel room. The danger of that is much worse if you're sneezing and you're coughing. So that's the update. It's getting serious. They don't want ISIS doesn't want to have all its infidels brought down by the coronavirus. Incidentally, Iran, this thing is taking out big shot ayatollahs. Mexico is threatening to close